Hey guys, Tim McCamus out in the shop tonight. We're in the showroom with our display chassis. I wanted to go over a question we get asked quite a bit, especially this time of year. So it's not the beginning of race season, so it's been going a little while. It's the middle of July, but when you're on the track, there's always that chance, okay? You might get a little crossed up, you might get close to the guardrail, you might just do a little glancing blow. Whatever, let's say you're out running your car and there's something on the track, whatever the case is, you get into some tire shake and you have an accident, okay? And that might be just a glance off and coast on down. It might be a barrel roll. It might be across the track and hit the guardrail on the left side, then come back and hit the right side. It could be close to the starting line, at the finish line. You know what, it doesn't really matter. These cars are so fast, they're going fast enough in 60 feet to destroy the car. So we get this, all right, I wrecked my car, doesn't look too bad, I need to bring it in and get it fixed. Well, doesn't look too bad at the track doesn't mean that it's fine. So you have to assess where do I, what do I do and where do I call it enough? Like what is enough or what isn't enough. Now, we get some cars, some chassis in that are really bad. Especially the front end, because the front end's easy to knock it out of shape. And you guys are like, well, should I fix it or build another car? What should I do? So, there's a lot of stuff on these cars, especially from the cab back, and the front end is usually what takes the brunt. Most of the time, you really rarely ever see a rear impact, but the front of the car is going to take some heat. And so, if you have to front half the car, like what we call front halves from the firewall forward, which is very common because it's real easy to knock this off center. That's a feasible fix, okay? You can usually get the struts rebuilt, fix all the accessories up here, chop it off here, put it back on the table, put some fresh tubing on it. We can splice the lower frame rails where you can't even tell that they've ever been touched. I mean, we put nice long sleeves in them, rosette weld them, stitch weld the seam, sand it all down, looks like it's never been touched. And it's actually stronger in that joint than it was before the accident. So front halving is a piece of cake. Come in, chop the stuff off, throw it in the trash, put a new front stub on it, mount a new front end, windshield, maybe a door, something like that. This is all feasible. As you start getting back into the car more, then you got to start assessing, well, how much do I really want to do? Do I want to, if you get into the floor and you get into some of this, I mean, if you have to start cutting this thing back towards the main hoop, it's done, okay? It's time to start over because there's just too much here, too much going on. And you've also got to assess too, how old is this car? How many runs does it have on it? If this car's 10 years old, it's got a bunch of runs on it, gets in an accident, tweaks this cab a little bit, it ain't worth fixing. It's time to start over. Fresh cars are always faster, These cars last very well now, but fresh tubing is fast. So you have to decide when you get into that. If you get back in here and this thing hits the front end, rolls over on the top, slides, grinds into this main hoop, done, throw it away. Anything back here is going to be hard to fix because when you start these chassis, the first tube you put down is this rear cross member. So that's the very first tube, and then everything starts building from there, builds forward and builds back this way, builds to the front and to the back. So this starts here, and this is like the foundation of the house back here, this 4-link and main hoop and all this stuff. So if your foundation's junk, everything attached to it's going to be junk. So use some common sense, use some common sense and think about, am I just beating a dead horse here? Am I going to have as much money fixing this thing as I would if I just started over? It's tough sometimes because, in the middle of these cars there's tons of wiring, there's tons of controls, there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of labor and a lot of money right here doing this part of the car. So when you start getting into this thing and start having to strip everything out of it because you got to grind on it and cut tubes, it starts to become a little tough to fix. So take it to whoever does your repairs, take it to the chassis shop and, okay, have them do an estimate on it. If you put it up on the table or put it on a jig and the floor of the car, the floor of the cab is not square any longer, it's jacked out of shape. Let's say it took a hit in the front, swung around here and hit this lower tube right at your foot box here, knocked the floor out of shape. It's junk, all right? Don't try to fix it. You can also look at the welds and around the the joints in the floor before you even put it on the table and see if there's any stress cracks in the paint or powder coating there. That'll tell you if there's any movement there. If there is, it's junk. Take it to your shop. Let your, again, use some common sense. If the guy tells you it's going to be, $15,000 to fix it, and you think, oh, that's not too bad, double it at least, because that's what it'll be. All right. So if the number doesn't sound right, I mean, you guys know what this stuff costs. If it sounds off, it's off. If it sounds about right, like if you say, well, that sounds about right, that's expensive, but that sounds about right, double it, okay? Because that's where it's going to end up. So there's all kinds of shit that you run into in these things when you start rebuilding them, and there's all types of unexpected components, and you get into it, and then you get halfway into the repair, and then it's, oh, this is bad, or that's bad, or this is, I didn't see this, and then pretty soon you're adding more and more, and then in the end, you're at a new car anyway. So these things are hard to build. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of talent needed to build them, a lot of skill. The tubing's expensive. The plating, the powder coating, all that stuff is very expensive to do. So if you get, hopefully you don't ever have to deal with this, but if you do get in this kind of situation, look at what it's going to cost. I mean, look at how much a front end costs. If you got a carbon body on this car, and this thing needs a front end, it needs a door, let's say it needs a front end, needs a quarter panel. You do that, just those pieces, just those body pieces, plus paint, $30,000, $25,000, $30,000. That's what it's going to cost. So that's not counting any tubing or anything. That's just putting body panels on it, putting windows in it, and repainting it. I mean, you know what this stuff costs to paint now. It's expensive. Paint's expensive. Labor's expensive. Think about it. So don't get in a situation where you're trying to repair this wrecked car, and you go into this with some kind of notion that it's going to be, $5 or $10,000 to fix it, because it ain't going to be that. I mean, that's just facts of it. It costs a lot to fix these things, and once you get knee deep in it, then you're at the point of you got to ride it to the end. You got to finish it. You got to do something with it. You can't stop. So there's a lot of emotions when you have a wreck. There's a lot of things go through your head. Hopefully that the car is built good. Hopefully that, if you come out of it unscathed, who cares? Who cares what happens to this pile of tubing? All right. As long as you're good, then everything else can be dealt with. But don't go into this with a lot of emotion. Like, take a little break, take a couple days and kind of gather your thoughts, because, the immediate thought is, get this into the shop and get it repaired. I don't care what it costs. I hear this all the time. I don't care what it costs, just fix it. Well, you know what? You do care what it costs, because it's going to cost some money. And at that time, you're thinking, I just want to get back on the track. But you got to really think about it. You got to think. You can't be caught up in this. I got to make the next race, so whatever I got to pay to fix it is what it's going to be. Just take a little breath and think about what you're doing, and think about the best course of action. You may have to miss a race or two. If you crash it in the middle of the season, you're going to miss some races. There's just no doubt about it. But this stuff can all be fixed, but you don't want to take a car that's got a lot of runs on it, that's getting tired, the 4-link's tired in it, the tubing's got a lot of runs on it, maybe some cracks that you don't even know about, and rebuild 60% of it, and then have 40% of it that's kind of tired and worn out. So I don't want to be a downer on this, but wrecks suck, okay? There's no winner in that. The only winning part of that is if you come out of it in good shape, you did good. But there's no winner for the shops, there's no winner for the people. It's just a bunch of stress and headaches. So you really have to sit back and think about what you're going to do, because inevitably you own the car. It's your decision on what you do to fix it. So don't be naive in the fact that this number that you hear sounds pretty good and that's what it's going to be, because it's not. Once you get into it, it's going to be a lot more work. So if you just swing this thing around and catch the back corner and knock the wing and the quarter panel off of it and tweak the parachute pack and the wheelie bars and stuff, piece of cake, fix all that. Front half it, that's nothing. If the front half is easy, okay, put a front end and tubing up there, you start getting into this this main house right here, this main part of the chassis, then you just got to start thinking about what you're doing. So if this thing needs a front half and a back half and the only thing good on it is the cab, throw it in the trash, okay? It's not worth fixing. So that's my thoughts for tonight. Just wanted to give you a heads up. We get this a lot because, like I said, there's a lot of racing going on. If you get into an incident, do your homework. Talk to, and you don't have to just talk to one person. You can get a couple estimates on this stuff and just be smart about it. Be smart with your money. Be smart with how much time it takes. Don't be unexpected. You know, you can't front half one of these cars in a week, okay? It takes some time to do that. So don't get caught up in all that crazy stuff that you can wreck this thing on Sunday and be back at the racetrack next Saturday. So do your thinking and make a good decision. And I hope you guys are safe. I hope you don't have an incident. But if you do, just keep your head screwed on straight. I'll talk to you later.